Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Always Moving Podcast, episode number 12. Here we go today with Linda Brown, Linda Hoang, Lindork, Lindork.com. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm splendid. I've got my festive sweater on that you've already complimented. Thank you.
It's very nice. Yeah, it's putting me in the holiday spirit.
It's weird. Does it feel like Christmas to you right now?
I still went Christmas shopping
Well,
and
yeah, I mean,
wrapped gifts. Well, yeah, no, but that makes it feel like it, right? And then I'm only listening to Christmas music. I was almost listening to like the top songs of the year, but I have to wait until Boxing Day
okay.
for that. Okay, yeah.
It felt weird today. I came home from work. It's like the 22nd of December, and it's like, I don't know. Maybe it's this year itself, but it seems like a little bit of that mystique is not there. And
It's definitely different. Like Mike's parents dropped off presents, but like didn't come in.
yeah,
So
you're at
yeah.
the bottom of the stairs, and you're like, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't want to kill you, so you back up.
Yeah. So besides that, I mean, the music, the lights are always awesome to see, and
Mhm.
go from there. So hopefully it's gonna be all right.
I think so. And you have things like virtual calls, so you can still
Yeah,
sort of, feel like
it's
you're
the
with
exact
people.
same. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what did they just say in Alberta here? He just said, I feel like the phrasing was weird. Before they said people who lived alone, but then today he said single people
Yeah.
can go to someone else's holidays. So Lyndon.
Things are just, it's always weird, the wording, because then it's like,
Yeah.
you do this, but only if you live alone. But,
Yeah. Well, if you don't have a boyfriend or girlfriend, you could come over.
yeah, so we'll see how it goes. I don't know how much people are going to actually follow these regulations about it, but
I know it's weird, right? I was sort of thinking about, and I don't know if it's similar, but I was kind of thinking about prohibition time. Like now you look back and there's
yeah,
all these like secret, like
underground.
beer stuff. Yeah, like underground, like rum and all that stuff. And then now it's like, people are doing their secret gatherings. And like it has that
See
feeling.
some like documentary about these underground parties where it's not even
Yeah.
special, it's just more than 10 people together.
Yeah, it's like very boring.
Around like, yeah, I guess work's okay, but
No,
so
it's a weird time.
so then for you, how has would you consider yourself you're an influencer, or what's your kind of title you give yourself? Because I feel like the word influencer has a lot of different stigmas to it. And
Yeah.
so what do you call yourself? Yeah.
No, it's a good question. I mean, influencer is like the industry accepted word
Yeah.
for it. But for sure, to your point, it usually makes people kind of roll their eyes.
Yeah.
I don't I don't like to ever introduce myself as an influencer.
Hi,
So I
Linda,
think,
influencer.
yeah,
Huh?
exactly. So I think the more comfortable alternative that influencers are using nowadays is content creator.
Ooh,
So they are content creators. So I am a content creator slash influencer, and then I'm also a social media strategist slash communicator is kind of my like
okay.
main titles.
Okay. So then how long have you been doing this, and kind of what's it been like this year in comparison to all the other years going forward? Or I mean going back, so
Yeah, so I've been doing this for a very long time. I think the difference for a lot of influencers today is that influencer is like a job that you can have. I think last year was the first year in Canada that like it was included as like a drop down menu of a
yeah.
job you can select. So that's different. And so now you have people that are, let's say, kids going through high school or in college, and they're like, I want to be an influencer, I want to
Yeah.
be a creator. So that was not the case for me. For me, it was always, I like to share about stuff on the internet, mostly honestly, because I would like track it back to when I was probably 10,
Yeah.
um, because I wasn't really allowed to go out. I had strict parents.
Yeah.
We had a family computer. So really my days and weekends were on a computer.
Yeah.
So I would just be writing with strangers on the internet.
Oh, that's
And
good. At 10
yeah,
years
and
old.
then it kind of just grew. So yeah, so for me, it started because I like to share stuff online. And then, I mean, I don't like when people say like, oh, you're lucky, or it was like, all about timing. But I would say for sure timing played into it,
Yeah.
because I happened to already be doing those things
As it was taking off and
as it was
becoming,
becoming,
yeah.
a thing or an industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I got into it. But really, that's sort of the distinction, is that today I find, unfortunately, a lot of people that get into influencing,
Yeah.
sounds so dumb.
Yeah.
um, right? But they get into it because, and I get a lot of messages from people who say, how do I get free stuff? How do I get invited to
Yeah.
that? How do I get this? So it's all about like that free thing that they
Yeah, it's
want.
not so much that passion that you've had for the actual
Exactly.
base of
Yeah.
it. It's like, what can I do and
Yeah,
not
what can I
do
do to
anything
get the
really?
free stuff?
Yeah.
And I've said that before. I'll always remember this one girl had messaged me and said, how do I get free meals at restaurants? And then I had said, well, which restaurants do you already go to? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
do you like restaurants?
Do you
So
even eat at a restaurant?
yeah. So that's sort of the difference, I think. And not to say that, that I'm the only one who's passionate. There's a lot of
Yeah.
influencers and content creators that are very passionate about what they're writing about and talking about. But unfortunately, it's just such a wide range
Yeah.
that like there are, very bad, unethical, unprofessional types. And then there's also like, good and ethical and professional types too.
Yeah.
So I'd say over the years it's really changed. Like, so I have a blog, and that's really where it all started for me, is that I have this blog, and then from there I added social media to it. So I still always have this blog, and over the years it's changed what I write about. So, and it usually reflects kind of where I'm at in life. So I used to do journalism and television broadcasting. So I blogged more about the news. And
Yeah.
then I used to, I still work in social media, but earlier on in my career, when I worked in social media and communications, I'd blog about social media topics. So it all kind of reflected where I was at. And then food was a big focus for a while. But I mean, I think the thing that was important for me is that, like, I don't think that I'm the best food photographer. I don't even think that I'm the best food writer. Like,
Yeah.
I probably, I use delicious and tasty a lot. Like, those are my, those are like
That's
my
the best way to describe it.
yeah, exactly. Those are like my two words. So there's far better food writers than me, I think. But so I never thought that, my food photography and writing is enough to set me apart. It's really more, it's always been more about just that it's coming from me.
Yeah,
So
it's
like,
authentic. It's this.
yeah, this is my perspective on this. So then that allowed me to kind of, move beyond food as well. So it's food and local stuff and travel, but it's all still my perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so with the pandemic, actually, it was, I mean, I don't like to say that it didn't affect me as much, because I think it was a hard year for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But luckily for me, because I was already working from home, most of my work is online, so that wasn't really affected. And then the interesting part was, a lot of the stuff that I already wrote about and posted about was supporting food and businesses
Yeah,
and
and
kind
smaller
of
businesses around and stuff.
yeah,
So,
your local community. So like all of these things were still very important during the pandemic. So even, I would say I've been focusing more on travel the last few years. So this year I couldn't do any further away travel, but it ended up being totally fine, because at least for most of the pandemic in Alberta, we were able to still travel across the province. And there's a lot, to experience here. So it's kind of it wasn't a huge shift for me. I think I just found that I had to be a lot more I try to do this anyways, but I think this year with the pandemic, there was a lot more scrutiny around like what you're saying and how responsible you're being
Yeah.
and that sort of stuff. So it was more, yeah. So it was a lot of similar stuff that I would have already, likely posted about. But it was with a kind of disclaimer and like more
Yeah.
responsibility to not, be showing bad behavior.
Yeah.
Although there's lots of influencers that were showing bad behavior too.
Yeah. That's true. Yes. No, but I've seen some of your posts or stories or whatever, and you would say, "Be cautious," or "If you can't do this, don't do this," or "Stay within the
Right.
guideline" type thing. You were sure to not be
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, we just walk around, do whatever we want, go do it" type thing. So
Yeah, no, that was important. And that was even, even for me, and we were talking about this before you hit record, but sort of behind the scenes, what a lot of people don't see is, you see that I've partnered with a business or you see that I'm sponsored by a business and I'm posting about them, but you don't actually realize like for a lot of the businesses, I'm, telling them, no, I don't feel comfortable posting that today
yeah,
when they've just announced we've hit a record of
yeah,
deaths in
yeah.
Alberta. So I'll be like, I'm not posting that.
Maybe that,
And
yeah, yeah,
so there's this discussion and thoughtfulness, even like a recent one that I did where I had that disclaimer about, stay home if you're sick and et cetera. That came after as well. That wasn't part of like an initial, post with this
yeah,
company. But then I looked it over and I said, I need to add this because I don't want to come off as, encouraging people to
yeah.
misbehave.
Break protocol or whatnot like that. So
Yeah. So there's a lot more like back and forth and drafts. And I mean, at the end of the day, like I think again, it'll always be different depending on what influencer you're talking to. But at the end of the day, it's like this is me. And so
yeah,
I don't want my name and my reputation to
put
be.
on something that, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So I'm quite comfortable and I've been lucky. Well, there's that word again. I've been I've been lucky, but also I think intentional that like the businesses I work with, it would be okay if I said, no, I'm not doing this right now
yeah,
because it would not be appropriate. Whereas I think there might be in other cases, you might feel pressure to do it, or you're not as assertive about it, or maybe the business is all wrong and
yeah,
they're pressuring you to post it. But yeah, so that's important to me to really stick to what I believe is sort of the correct
yeah.
thing to say or do. But
See, I think you have a you've been quite successful and you got a very, well like well built audience and stuff. But for say someone coming up, would you say that's quite a difficult thing to say no to if you actually got your first business, like, hey, can you help promote this? And it's against kind of their values and maybe it's not going to work with the timing. Is it, would you suggest to someone, hey, stick to your guns, or be like, hey, this is your first opportunity, like go take it no matter what type thing?
yeah, no, I think no matter if you're like very seasoned or you're just doing it, you should never agree to something that you're not comfortable with.
Yeah,
And again, because the whole idea of influencers and influencer marketing is around you as a person,
yeah,
that's like you should care so much about like because if there's backlash, that's backlash on
on
you
you, yeah,
as a
not the
person.
not the business
So you
itself.
never want to do that. So if it doesn't feel right, sometimes honestly I feel like gut feelings are so important. Like sometimes I just get the sketchiest vibes
Like,
from an
oh,
email.
I'm gonna back away from this
I'm
one.
like, oh, I don't feel good about this. But yeah, but I think, and I think I talk about this a lot on my own social media. Probably, well, I don't think people are sick of it. 'Cause no one's told me that they're sick of it.
And
But
if they
like,
did, they're blocked. So it's okay.
yeah, exactly. But I think it's a good thing when you can say no
Yeah.
like a person to a company, whatever your situation is. I think it's just healthy if
Yeah.
you know that you can say no to something for whatever the reasons are that you have. But if it doesn't like line up with, your values and stuff, absolutely you shouldn't, there will be something that comes up down the road and it will fit more and you'll feel better about it if you
Yeah,
make
and
sure to. Right.
maybe in the end, another company coming up would see the integrity that you went in and like,
Totally.
no, this is who I am, and this is what I did, and I stand up for this. The one thing
Yeah.
I'll say is like through all your social media and everything you do is, it's definitely you. I know you well enough, and like I see a post, I'll be like, That's Linda right there." Like you're not like lying about it or whatever. I could picture you in the situation. It's 100% authentic, and I think that's something that really resonates with people
Thank
because you'll
you.
see a lot of like fake smiles
Yeah.
or holding something like this. It's like,
It's really
what?
weird. Yeah, like everyone knows it, right? And
Yeah,
that's where the whole bad reputation for influencers in general comes
yeah.
from, is because you see stuff like that where you're like, why are you shilling this?
What even is this? Why do you care about
What is this?
selling chains? What is it?
So funny. No, and I'm glad that you said that. Yeah, because you do know me, because you're obviously a very close friend. So you know that it's one of my pet peeves, but then I understand because people see people shilling random crap all the time. But
Yeah,
like I will get messages sometimes from people that will say, but did you really like it? And I'll be
yeah,
like, yes. I wouldn't say that I did if I didn't.
yeah.
But yeah.
Have you ever received anything or someone's like, "Hey, try this event," and it was really terrible, or like the product itself was like, "Oh, I can't write positive about this thing." Like, you had to contact them and be like, "This isn't gonna work." Or
Actually, yeah, a few times that's happened. And I think that's good though.
yeah,
So usually now though, depending on what it is, I'll say it from the beginning of whatever that initial outreach is. I'll
yeah,
say like, well, I'll need to try it first. And then if I don't like it, then no.
yeah, yeah,
But that's important for me to try. So I think a good sort of recent example is I mean, I don't want to close the door completely on kombucha, but I'm not really a kombucha person.
yeah, yeah,
And a kombucha company in Alberta had reached out and asked if I wanted to, promote their kombucha. And like I would promote it from the perspective that it's a Alberta business.
yeah.
And if you like kombucha, you'll
It's your
probably
thing.
like it. But I said I need to try it first because I don't think I like kombucha. And then I tried it and I emailed back and I said I
This
didn't
is,
like it.
I'm pretty sure you gave me one of these cans when you bought
Yeah,
them.
I might have given you an extra because I didn't finish it.
Yeah,
So yeah, so then that's okay. I think I had just this past year was the first year, and I've probably been doing like official influencer stuff for maybe over 5 years.
yeah,
But this was the first year that I had a company say to me in the very first email, and if you don't like this, then like we'll like cancel our agreement
yeah.
because they wanted it to be authentic as well. And I was like, oh, that's great that you're actually saying that.
Yeah,
Like
would you
no
say
one
this is maybe something that businesses are trying to push for then now,
I
knowing
think
more,
so.
understanding more the industry now as it is?
Yeah, I think so. I think the thing about it now is I feel like influencers and companies maybe a few years ago could get away with saying, "Well, I don't know. I didn't know that,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
I don't know those rules, or I don't know about this." But now there's so many articles and there's so many people doing it and there's so many tools, and honestly, that just means if you don't know, you're choosing not
yeah,
to educate yourself
yeah,
when that's available. So yeah, so yeah, but I think it's good when you try something and you say no. I think one time I had like it was a magazine app
yeah,
that uh because knowing like less people are buying the physical magazines, they're like, can you promote this app where you can have up access to all these magazines? And it took me like almost an hour to try to sign up because there was like I didn't
yeah,
know what
yeah,
to
yeah.
click. It was so confusing. And then I just emailed them back and I said, like, I don't feel comfortable talking about this because it literally was so hard
Yeah.
to try and
I
figure out.
couldn't get this to work, so I don't like, tell other people to try it too.
Yeah, exactly. So
So, look, going back, do you remember your very first kind of partnership with a company, or like, say your first sponsor or something like that?
that's a great question. I wonder, obviously I'm not going to do it for this podcast episode, but that's something that I think that I'll like dig back into my blog archives to see. But I imagine my first ones would have probably have been like, do you want to come to our new menu launch or
Yeah,
something at a
yeah.
restaurant? So it's probably like a food related one. Um, it's funny because Mike, for people who are listening and don't know, he's my husband and he went to school with Lyndon. I'm pretty sure you guys had many intimate moments together.
One or two.
But he's funny now because we've been to so many, I mean this year excluded, but we've been to so many different food events
Yeah.
over our like 11 years together that like he's like so snobby about what is a good event and what's a bad event, even though it's all good because
Yeah.
it's free and we're invited. But yeah, he'll be funny if he
You
doesn't.
you
Yeah.
say like, "Oh, we have this," and he kind of like looks at look what's on the menu or
Well,
whatever.
his is even more like, oh, it wasn't a sit down, or like, oh, you
Oh,
had to
okay.
share tables with people. Or but yeah, no, it's funny. So yeah, it was probably a food related event a long time ago. But yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of it was definitely food and then it turned into more travel. I've had some really weird offers. Like before, like one time I had a lawnmower company reach out. And probably like now I'd probably say yes because I'm a homeowner and
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
I have to mow the lawn when Mike's not home. But back then it was like weird because I was mostly only posting about food and I was like still
And
in,
then just approached by
yeah,
John
I was still
Deere.
in school. Yeah, exactly. So that was a little weird, but
So then, so now I want to brush on something we talked about before I started recording
yeah.
with Mike, and you mentioned that he might finally be able to surpass you on a social media platform. His TikTok goals.
Yes. So Mike has been working really hard on his TikTok. He has a Pokemon TikTok called Master Mike with a 3 for one of the E's. Anyways, where he literally just every day he like will open up Pokemon cards. Anyways, I'm actually really proud of him because part of like he's picked up on a lot of like because the other half of my job is I give advice to companies and people on how they should be doing social media and
Yeah.
how they should engage people and grow their followers and that sort of thing. So it's funny because I think through osmosis he sort of like he kind of
Like, you
gets
know what?
it.
This is how I should approach this.
Yeah, so he was very like, I'm gonna be consistent. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. He's got like his graphics that he uses are all kind of similar. It's all, yeah. So I am quite proud of him. Anyway, so as of this recording, he was almost at 1,000 followers on TikTok, and I'm unfortunately not. It's because I think we're old.
We're not old, okay?
And because we don't have a niche, so that's the thing. Like I think on TikTok it really works if you're either doing something very stupid or like so consistent and repetitive about something. So I haven't done that. I've just mostly been playing around with my TikTok. And one time I had a video go viral like a year ago, and so I got like 1,500 followers.
Yeah.
And I literally haven't gotten any new followers since then. So he's very excited that he might finally be surpassing me on a social network, and it's fine because actually I think everyone who's following him are like really into Pokemon.
Yeah. He's found his role in a.
So it's a very, and he's kind of gone through those phases too. Like for a time there, he was doing like a pizza account where he was just eating pizza. I feel like that might do well on TikTok too. Sometimes I feel like some ideas for other social networks had TikTok been around a few years ago, they would have taken off. But yeah, so he's getting there.
That's awesome. I remember doing a couple dance videos with him, and I think we were saying how we were going mainstream, and we
Yes.
probably got like 6 likes, but
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. You have to be I mean, I think you either have to be a really good dancer or like cuter
what's the word?
for your
Wow. Okay. This
See,
close to this
that's
close
for
to
Mike
Christmas,
too.
everything. It is wow.
For dancing to take off. But
Okay, yeah.
yeah, yeah. But
So kind of looking at social media platforms and finding your niche or whatever it is, have you ever tried something you're like, this is really gonna hit, and it just fell flat, or it's like this didn't take off whatsoever? Or did you have anything like that?
I feel like anything that I try to do on TikTok is that. I literally will tell Mike,
This is a
"Oh,
good one. Here
this
we
is
go.
gonna be good. This is gonna be good," and he's like, "No, it's not." So yeah, so that's why. Yeah, he says I try too hard on TikTok. I don't think I try too hard on TikTok. It's just like I like to edit on my computer
Yeah.
instead of like editing on TikTok. I feel like most people can't tell anyway. But yeah, everything I do on TikTok is a flop.
This is an
um
absolute bust.
yeah, I mean some blog posts, actually, I mean I would say the majority of my blog posts, I get like some blog posts that are like, what's like a sports reference, like, you hit it out of the park.
You don't do a lot of sports blogging, do you?
No. So like some blogs are like so popular and like like viewed every single day,
Yeah.
no matter if I posted it a year or 2 or 3 years ago. So some of those are great. Um and then some don't really get that many views. So I would say it's probably 50-50.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to think that everything that I'm blogging about is, I mean, at least I try to now, um, is like useful or valuable to someone or some audience. But there's definitely some that take off more so than others. My dog just moved the table. um, but yeah, I don't know if I have a specific example, but like the TikTok one would be the best one, is that every TikTok one sucks.
It's just absolutely
And
terrible.
right. And then I mean on Instagram it's tough because into like everyone always complains about Instagram's like algorithm.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they're not showing my posts to people, to like my audience. And that's true. And like Facebook posts don't really get shown to everyone that likes you or follows you. So that's definitely a little frustrating. But yeah, but I try not to, because then I see other influencers sometimes post like, please, like look at my stuff, and
Yeah.
like, and I never want to do that. I get it, because for a lot of influencers that's where their income is coming from as
Yeah.
well. So people aren't looking at their posts and they're kind of screwed. And actually now that I think about it, I have a fair bit of followers on Twitter, but most of the followers that I have on Twitter are from like such a different time ago,
Yeah.
that like many of them are around the world and many of them aren't really interested in what I'm posting about now.
Yeah.
So then I end up posting, very local Edmonton, Alberta stuff on Twitter, and it doesn't really get a whole lot of attention or engagement. And it's very noticeable when I post videos on Twitter. And because my thing is I never want people to think that I bought my followers or anything like that.
Yeah.
And sometimes you scroll and you're like, oh, that's weird. She has 17,000 followers, but only like 100 views on her video.
Yeah.
That's suspicious. So I hate that. And I would love if Twitter just like removed everyone that didn't
Yeah.
care about my stuff.
Yeah.
So I would love that. Twitter and Instagram actually did that a few years ago. They did what I think the internet people called a purge. And it was
That's the
great.
lingo of the business.
That was the lingo. So I want them to do another purge, like please.
Yeah.
But yeah, so a lot of things on Twitter I don't get a whole lot of love for. But then you get like random things. Like I did a poll about whether Lay's or Old Dutch chips are better, and it had like almost 1,000 votes, I think. People were like
wow, people like their chips.
very passionate about their chips.
Okay, so I want to kind of go for someone starting out. And then maybe if you could go back and tell yourself something starting out, what kind of advice would you give yourself and then someone kind of coming in, like if they want to start a blog or start to really take influencing seriously, what would you suggest that they do? Is it, like you mentioned, consistency and being true to yourself? Is there any other advice you would give to somebody starting out?
Yeah, I think if you're starting out, the consistency is important. Being true to yourself is important. I also really think that you need to, and it sounds kind of obvious, but you actually need to care about what it is that you're posting about,
Yeah.
right? So I never know if like you need to be passionate is good advice. But like you do really need to care about what the topics are that you're picking. So I guess the advice is um it's never gonna hurt you to be more planned and prepared
Yeah.
before you start what it is that you're starting.
Yeah.
So take the time to find people or accounts or blogs that you'd like to, that you like aspire to,
Yeah.
like what you like about them, or then find stuff that you don't like and things that you want to avoid. And then being very intentional about why you're doing it. Um, Something I think so for me, if I was giving myself advice back then, I don't know if it would make as much sense because back then I wasn't doing it to try and get followers or
Yeah.
anything,
Yeah.
right? So for people that are doing it now because you do want to grow, your audience and you do want to engage people, is I always suggest that you think about what you're creating from an audience perspective,
Yeah.
because it's so different for me to write about, you know, Christmas in Edmonton if I was just writing a personal blog about
Yeah.
Christmas in Edmonton versus I want to write about Christmas in Edmonton that people in Edmonton will find useful or interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that really changes what you say or what you do. So when you start to think about what people will Google or what people will search for or what people like need that still fits within whatever the topic is that you're creating
Yeah.
content
Yeah.
for, then I think you'll find a lot more success. So back then, I mean, if it was advice for me, it would be like, be more focused and like think more about the community. I think I did eventually get there, and that's
Yeah.
that's how I got where I am. Is I eventually started to hone in on like Edmonton and community
Yeah.
and what Edmontonians want. But at the beginning it was really just like it was like my personal diary,
Yeah.
right? So it wasn't really helpful for anyone. It was just
Just,
it was just an outlet. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I get that. Do you think trial and error is a big part of it too? See what works and see what doesn't. And if, say, like you said for Twitter, for example, you say something or post something and it doesn't get many likes, and it's like, well, maybe don't give up on that fully. And then the next one you have a lot of success, so don't kind of get discouraged easily and just see what works, see
Yeah.
what doesn't, see what catches on.
I think that's great advice. I think I'm always a fan of like experimenting with things and trying new things. Something that when I consult with businesses on social media, what they often lack is that they are not paying attention to what works or what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that if you see that something has flopped, you give up. To your point, it's more that it flopped, you start to think about why it might have flopped, and then maybe you tweak a few things where you try to change it a little bit the next time you
Yeah.
post
Yeah.
it, but it's still not, you're not giving up right away. But then eventually the idea is that, after 3 months and you've tried this sort of thing for 3 months now and it still flops, maybe then you
Then
could,
it's time to move on.
yeah, but then at least it's more based in, actual data or
Yeah.
measurement, or that you've actually put some thought into it, versus just like a one and done thing.
Yeah.
Um, there's so many like variables, I think, with social media as well, is like I think the pandemic too is like the fact that we're in a pandemic is going to mean that certain topics that you might write or create content for is going to be more popular
Yeah.
than you weren't in a pandemic. But next year, if we're not in a pandemic anymore, will the same topics work? Maybe not.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's thinking about all the different things that might affect it. But yeah, I love trying new stuff, even if it doesn't stick
Yeah.
or is like a resounding success at first. And then
And
I
then,
think nothing really is a success at first. You kind of just keep working towards that,
yeah.
unless you're like a viral TikTok star.
Like Mike. Like Mike.
Like Mike.
Um, so yeah, I appreciate you talking. I'm not going to keep you much longer because I know Mike's coming in later today. Um, I had an idea and I totally just drew a blank there, so that's perfect. That you're listening. Um, the one thing I wanted to ask you before
Oh,
is, is that
oh,
Artie?
yeah. Artie, we're gonna
Uh,
cut this out.
um, one of the last things about your career is, where do you want to kind of get to from here? Like, what kind of goals do you have? Do you set like a goal you want to get to each year, or it just kind of adapts as it goes along, or
Yeah, I think it's a good question. So since I started my own business, I know a lot of people in social media marketing who have started their own businesses, and their goals sort of for success is that they would, hire people and basically become an agency, and
yeah,
then, become a bigger like company that way. I don't really have those intentions. So I want to stay busy and have clients and work, because my job and my business is so focused on me, I don't think it would make as much like people hire me because they want to work with me. So I don't think it makes as much sense for me to suddenly become an agency with other people that are working there.
yeah,
So yeah, no, I think the nice part about where I'm at in my career is that because I have now established a pretty good audience, and have made a pretty good name for myself, at least locally, is that I'm not afraid to, if I have an idea for something like a project or an event or
yeah,
whatever it is, I can just sort of do it and then be fairly confident that there will be, interest from
yeah,
people. So it's kind of nice. So I would like to basically just keep creating cool stuff. Like eventually I want to, maybe I do like a conference in the new year. I'm thinking I would do some webinar like education series for social media work. I was doing before the pandemic. I was kind of ramping up more like walking tours and food
yeah,
crawls and
yeah.
that sort
I
of thing.
saw
So I was
those. They
like
look
a
pretty
tour
cool.
guide. Yeah, so doing more of that. So it's just more if I have time to do it.
Yeah, yeah,
um, I think I forget who I joked about it with. I posted something about me being on TV. So my background is in journalism and television broadcasting. Oh yeah, so I was talking about like holiday meals
yeah,
on Global Edmonton, the TV station here, and someone had said, "Whoa, you're really good on TV," which is really nice. But then I said, "Yeah, I was in television broadcasting though, so it's kind of like I'm cheating." But
hopefully I'm okay.
yeah, hopefully I'm okay. But that's sort of my preference is that I did, I was in media news for a little while, but I much prefer now I have these opportunities to still be on TV and kind of have like web series and things like
Yeah,
that where I'm still kind of in front of the camera, but like kind of on my own
yeah.
terms. Yeah, and not like
Relevant to you as what you
yeah,
want to do. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I
So
get
eventually it'd be cool to have some type of, TV or online kind of series that way. That's down the road though, but and then yeah, and like before the pandemic, my travel related work was kind of picking up. Yeah, right now I'm very like hyper local Edmonton area. Alberta is
yeah,
even in Alberta though, I'm still like Edmonton is like my core demographic.
yeah,
So goal like sort of short-term goals would be like how do I now do more Calgary content?
Yeah, yeah,
Actually, it's interesting. A lot of the times when I create Edmonton stuff, I'll get people that ask, are you going to do a Calgary version of this? Because a lot of it could have a
yeah,
Calgary like
yeah.
spinoff. But I'm just like, capacity wise, I can't, I'm not there. But I would like to expand so that my audience is both Edmonton and Calgary across Alberta,
Yeah.
and then eventually
Then you cross the mountains and then you go to the prairies.
yeah, exactly. So eventually I would be across Canada, but even then I'm not sure. I know a lot of people who are like successful Canadian bloggers and Canadian influencers. But because all of my success has been so like local, I
Yeah,
sort of like fear what stretching too
yeah,
far, geographically will do. But yeah, so that's kind of just keep doing what I'm doing, I guess.
just let it ride. No, I love your social medias and your content. You know, pandemic and the weather's not that great, but you have a very cheerful attitude usually to things. So I think you brighten a lot of people's day. And then I'll see, like, if I go to your page and it says followed by a certain friend of mine or several friends of mine, I'm like, no way, like these people have
Oh, that's nice.
Linda. It's like,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. So
Yeah, I always know when something is resonating when like Mike will send me stuff that his random friends from high school or junior high send him about me.
yeah,
I'm like, oh, okay,
that's
it's reached that person.
yeah. Okay, last thing before I leave you alone and let you enjoy your evening. Since you're so deep into social media and influencing and you know what works and what doesn't, do you go through, like, it's bedtime, you're just scrolling through Instagram and you see like posts of your friends and be like, that's terrible. Like that's not gonna work. Like,
Are you talking specifically
I'm
about
not
when you
talking
look at
specifically.
your post?
I know my stuff's all gold. I'm worried about the other people that you know. Do you ever go through, do you separate the job portion of it and the expertise portion of it and just enjoy someone's not in focus photo of them eating on a balcony somewhere?
I would say that I don't separate very well for sure. And I think depending on the person, I might message them and say something.
I'm
but
pretty
to
sure
a
you've given me grief on stuff before.
but yeah, but to a point, because I don't want to be annoying, right? And actually, sometimes I'll say this to some of my friends too. Actually, and I have some friends who maybe when they start to show that they're trying to, like up their social media game or whatever, I'll be like, oh, no, I know you didn't ask for this advice, but you
But
should
here's
do
this.
this or something. So sometimes I will do that. Sometimes I do bite my tongue. I have a friend who I don't think she'll listen to this, but
Wow.
I have a friend who sells secondhand clothes through an Instagram account, and I actually like hate that she uses the harshest like filters on her pictures.
Yeah.
I hate it so much. And I'm like, and I don't think it's helping her.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but it's a balance, right? It's like, well, she didn't ask for my advice, so I probably won't tell her that. But there's all these other secondhand Instagram accounts that I love. And I'm
Yeah.
like, look at those photos. They're much
Gonna
nicer.
share something her way.
Yeah, so it really just depends. I know if people are, and it's really more if I know that people are trying to, like if you're trying to have people listen to your podcast, there's probably advice that I would want to give you. But I also know you're just kind of doing it for fun, and I'm like, well, I'm not gonna like step in there.
Yeah.
So it just kind of depends. And like like parents that are on social media,
Oh
I'm not,
yeah.
I'm not like, yeah. I'm not, telling them that they should change some stuff. And it's tricky too, because I also don't want to fall into giving away, like once people start thinking that you give them free advice, then it like gets really tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah, with like their questions and my time and that sort of thing. But yeah, no, I try to separate that and as best I can, but I'm pretty much, connected at all times.
Yeah.
But it's tricky. I just had to message them back and say, because they had asked me for advice about something and they're like a friend of a friend. It's not
Yeah.
even like a friend. And I was just like, like first I said, can you email me? Because it was on Instagram. And the second one thing I said was, I'm also out of office for the holidays.
Nice. Yeah.
Even though I'm like on, right?
Yeah.
But that's like fun, Linda.
Yeah. He's having a party.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you hanging out with me on my pod, and I hope you guys have a happy holidays.
You too. Thanks for asking me. I love I love how creative you are and how you go for it with starting things like this. And
Yeah, I'm gonna say I went into this one without as much planning as maybe I should have, but but I mean, for me, this podcast has been, it's a nice creative outlet, and like kind of like you in a way, this is me. Like when you hear me talk, it's me. And I
yeah.
did a podcast 2 episodes ago all in French because hell, why not?
Yeah, totally. I think that's cool.
And like, I had people, the whole plan was because I have a bunch of friends in France because I lived there for so many years. And it's like, I'll do something special for them. And
Yeah.
at the beginning of the episode, after a minute of speaking in English, I'm like, well, sorry, but I've already got your listen, so it's too late now. But
That's,
no, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you, Linda. And
thank you.
best of luck moving forward. And you'll most likely hear or receive messages from me bothering you about posts and everything. So, which I tend to do, or a sweet blog idea. I've
Yeah.
got good ones.
Oh yeah, you always give me some good ones. Thanks, Lyndon.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone listening. This has been the Always Moving Podcast, episode 12. Let's keep this thing moving.